camera in action. I cannot see any of my, this is really frustrating, if I'm going to be honest. So I can't see my live chat, and it's something to do with my settings. There we go. Now I can see if there's live chat. Hi. Let's just see. Hello. Hello. Live chat. There we go. There's my hello popping up. There's yours. Okay. Yeah. You can sort of see it. I'm just not satisfied with the size of the letters, It's really small.
Can you get YouTube up on a different tab, maybe, or a different window or something?
The problem is the chat timing is different. Namaste, Omero, Dead Machine. How you doing? I hope you're well. I hope you're having a good day. Sending big love to those that are joining the show. Sorry, I've been very disorganized this morning. We only just decided we were going to do a live like now. Well, we were talking about it last night to do it. Actually, we were talking about doing it yesterday. Anyway, here we are. Long story short, Shinobi, those of you that don't know Shinobi, those people that are going to join the show later and maybe come back or watch this retrospectively, he's a cool researcher. Go and check out his channel. It's in the recommended channels list for my channels. At the bottom of my YouTube page is a list of people I recommend. And he's a researcher. He puts a lot of time and energy into decoding what's going on. He's writing a book at the moment. It's a graphic novel, I believe, or a book. It's a work in progress, but it's going to be an exciting story. It's a science fiction, but truth-based science fiction that's going to be carrying a whole lot of interesting information about what's going on in the world. A beautiful synchronistic metaphor and satire, I'm sure, will be written all over its face. And I'm the Bush Whisperer. I'm here from southern tip of Cape Town. Shinobi's from close to Brighton. And we're going to just be having a tongue waggle about the holy divine order of nature and how it's been hidden from us. Welcome, dear brother. It's an honor to be here with you as always.
Hey, man. Much love. Nice to see you. And everyone who's going to be joining us in the chat. Hope everyone's doing well today. It's nice and sunny here in England. Well, partly, which is good because we've had some quite dense fog for the last few days. That's why my throat's a little bit blocked up because who knows what was in that fog. But I've seen people sharing photos online of some weird stuff that they found in it. It seems like we're constantly being attacked by this or that. The powers that be have got to try and get us, try and keep us on a level as we start rising and seeing what's going on, and things have been revealed to us. So yeah, bear with me, a little bit croaky today. I did gargle some salt water though, and that seemed to help. But they can't stop us talking about this stuff.
You almost want to respect them for their consistency, don't you? That's one thing they got going for themselves is they are consistent and they will consistently do what they do and nothing's going to change. Yeah. They work pretty hard at what they're doing, don't they?
Well,
if
we
will undermine them.
Yeah, well, what was weird is day before yesterday there was some really dense fog, and then there was lots of rain and the fog cleared and it was really, really sunny. But yesterday I saw people posting online of they were like, what was in that rain? Like there was some I took some photos of stuff that people have shared online. But yeah, I mean, it's just constant, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about everywhere else in the world, but here, we have our skies are white so often. And I do understand how the weather works. We get different changes, and we do get some foggy days and misty days and clouds and stuff. But it's just so nice when the sun does come out. It's so nice. So I'm glad it's here today.
You know, there was a time in 2013 or 2014, I think it was 2013, I was living in Croydon, out by the close to the Greenbelt, Croydon side. Really nice place, nice area, lots of waterways, lovely little walks. We used to walk our dog along the waters, beautiful. But they were like heavy chemtrailing. And we were doing a lot of research into chemtrailing. And, there were those days, there were a lot of people that these days acknowledge it. They were trying to debunk it. And we were like, dudes. And the one day, it was like a smoking gun. I went out in the morning early to take out the trash, right? Because I had to wheelie bin. I had to push it out into the sidewalk, from the side of the house. And I was barefoot. It was winter. It was cold. And I remember coming out and looking at the road and going, that's weird. I've never seen frost that looks like that before. Like all over the tar, all over the pavement, all over our like cobblestone walkway, where you pull your wheelie bin. And so I walked over it, not thinking anything, thinking, oh, it's cold. Took out the wheelie bin and I came back into the house. And suddenly my feet were so itchy. And so I was trying to scratch, like you scratch your feet on your shins. And everywhere where I'd scratched my feet, it was suddenly itching crazy. And I had to like run and stick my feet under the shower and wash my feet, right? Because it was like extremely itchy. And I washed off all the stuff. And I went to my then girlfriend and I said to my ex now, I said to her, there's something weird in the street, man. I thought it was frost, but what that did to my feet is weird. So we went out and we looked at it. It was like a very, very fine nanoparticulate dust. Very, very fine. Hey, beautiful Hollowburn Hawk. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good morning. And that fine nanoparticle dust, if you put it on your skin, if you touched it, it made you extremely itchy. It was like it would go inside your pores and affect your nerves or something. And so if you got it on you, you had to literally wash it off like immediately and rinse it well underwater to get it all off. So, I bet you it's the same stuff. It felt like it was metallic.
Yeah, there's somebody who Esme follows, a Celtic shaman. This lady Esme follows, and yesterday Esme was listening to a video of her, and this lady was like, "Oh, sorry, I've got a bit of a throat infection, but I'm going to try and talk anyway." And I was saying to Esme, when was this video recorded? And it was recorded last night or yesterday. So I'm like, okay. Maybe it's not a throat infection she's got. It's probably just a case of being outside in the fog. Because this lady doesn't live too far from where we are, I don't think. About halfway up the island. So about, I can't remember where she's from. A couple of hours north anyway. So they probably had the same weather. Because my throat's a bit like this too. I'm sure it's quite a common theme. And what's interesting as well with the fog is that in 2020 it was in our minds, the fog, like people having brain fog. And it's just interesting how when there's fog, it seems to affect it's affected my throat and other people's throats as well. And that's how you speak, and that's how you bring things into existence. So it's like first they're trying to stop us thinking about, thinking about who we are, where we've come from, where we're going, about life. And then as well, it seems they want to stop us speaking and bringing things into existence too, hence the blue masks and now this fog, which seems to be quite a common thing here in the UK anyway. You're muted.
Yeah, brother. This is almost in alignment with the topic today, you know. If you think about it, because much of what we are, you know, conditioned with regards to the outside, they don't want us outside. They want us in the house. So now they're putting stuff outside that makes us feel uncomfortable. And you know how the human body operates. You might not be cognizant or consciously aware of, let me put that thing on the center quickly. We might not be cognizantly aware. Can I not change where it goes? Center. Wide size. Hold on, let me change this layout. That will maybe make it a bit better. We might not be cognizantly aware of the effects on our bodies, right? We might not be tuned into it. We might not be realizing. But let's say you're sitting somewhere where you're cold and you're not consciously aware of the fact that it's cold. Your emotional state would reflect that, whether you're conscious of it or not. So you just wouldn't want to sit in that chair, right? You would unconsciously have a desire not to be there. If you go somewhere and there's like an itch on your skin, like I'll give you an example. There was one part of my house where there was this plant that if it fell on your skin, it made you itch. It was a weird kind of a tree. And like the dogs didn't want to be around that side of the house, right? Where that one bush was. And I noticed that like unconscious was that you unconsciously avoid that part of the garden. And then when I actually got it on my skin, I realized that's why I'm never at that part of the garden. Because my skin could unconsciously feel that there's something itchy in the air here. And I think like it would make you want to stay indoors, wouldn't it? Because the unconscious natural defenses of the body would be like the psyche would be saying, no, don't go outside. It's going to affect your health. It's going to make you feel bad. So your natural proclivity is then to stay in the house and to want to, you know, do something else and stay on your digital keyboard, on your screen, on your computer, on your phone. And they've also programmed us to resent nature and to be afraid of nature with all of their horror films, with all of the propaganda out there, poisonous snakes. How much have we learned and heard about poisonous snakes in our lives? But when you go into nature, you realize most snakes are not poisonous. It's a little bit weird, isn't it? Like how much we've been conditioned to think of snakes as venomous, but actually most snakes, the venom's like, yeah, you know, 95% of the snakes on the earth can bite you and it'll be uncomfortable, like a scorpion sting, you know, which is interesting.
Yeah, I've always been afraid of snakes, and it's something that I've come to realize recently is why am I afraid of them? It's just the way they move. It's not that I'm scared that they're going to hurt me or attack me, because here in the UK we've only got one venomous snake. I think it's the adder, brown adder, or no, black adder, like the series.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're cool.
I've never seen one, but when I used to live with my mum, my old cat Otis, he was Burmese. He had like a blue eyes and like really interesting coloring. He was much like a little monkey. He used to jump up and sit on my shoulder like your bird is, and he used to bring in slow worms from the garden, and their blood's green. And then there was this one time when he brought one in, and this, I swear to God, this slow worm was like a cobra, like this, like hissing and stuff. And they don't have any teeth, I don't think. But I was very cautious of it just because of the way it moves. I think because it doesn't have any hands, like spiders are okay. I used to be a bit wary of spiders. I'm a little bit better now. But yeah, something about snakes. And it's funny because the symbolism of the snake, what I understand the snake to symbolize, and the fact that snakes are one of the animals which have been demonized, sort of makes me want to not fear them and sort of try and get over that fear. But the thing is, I rarely see them. I've never seen a snake in the UK, I don't think, apart from slow worms. I'm not scared of worms. It's just slow worms. They're like about this big, like that big, silver. It's just the way they move. You're not really sure where they're going to go, what they're going to do. So, it's a silly little thing. I don't know if it's generational or because of programming from films, probably, most likely. We're just like dragons demonized, snakes demonized, goats demonized. There's all sorts of animals. And what's interesting about those three is they're Hecate's animals. The goat, the dragon, the snake, amongst a few others as well. And why I find that interesting is because with Hecate, I just see her as like she's a guardian of dimensions, like a goddess. And what she symbolizes is doorways and thresholds and a keeper of keys and liminal spaces. That's our mind, that's our psyche. And the way I view it is these doorways. And one of these doorways is a dragon, one is a goat, one is a snake, and these are all archetypes of us. They're just different ways of perceiving us. And the thing is with this programming is how I believe it to work is when we go into ourselves, into our minds, into the dark, which we've also been made to fear, people won't want to go through these doorways because they'll be scared of what's on the other side, because they'll go, oh, there's a snake there, or there's a goat there, or that's like Baphomet or Pan, so I find that very, very interesting, that whether it's when we pass on, when we die, when we cross this threshold, or whether it's when we're alive, either way, it's just this changing. And this is why it's so important to recognize these symbols and archetypes and try and connect with more of our core of who we are and of what we are and where we are while we're alive, and not just wait until we die, because I don't know how that works. But the way I view it is there probably will be guardians of the threshold, and there'll probably be these archetypes that we've been made to fear and that have been demonized, and most people will turn away and run and go to the white light, maybe. And what's behind the white light? Who knows? But it's probably not a good thing.
That's really interesting. You say about going back to the snakes. I think snakes, the Garden of Eden, right? It was this evil serpent, and serpents were from that day cursed by God because they were evil and all that nonsense. And then you've got the idea of snake oil. This is another thing that needs to be debunked. It needs to be kicked on its butt. All this new age truther community, they keep going on and on about snake oil, right? Do they know what snake oil is? Well, it's one of the most used classical medicines from Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. And so we use the word snake oil to mean it's fake or it's a lie. But the real lie is using snake oil as a term to mean that it's fake or a lie. That means because the serpent doesn't represent lies, the serpent represents hidden truths, and how a hidden truth can be perceived as a lie if we think in terms of a singular perspective, because a snake always has to have two perspectives. It's a forked tongue. Got to see things from two different sides. And if you can look at things from two different sides, you will gain some insight into it. But the insight is relative. And so if you take that relative insight and call it the absolute truth, it becomes a lie. That's the secret of the snake as a symbolism. But also like the potential for power and energy that is hidden within our bodies and within our consciousness, the potential for movement and shift. So snake oil is powerful medicine. And so we've been brainwashed And all these brainwashed people go around talking about snake oil, right? And now they have turned it into a term. And every time they say it, it's a neurolinguistic trigger. And they are repressing their understanding of what the symbol snake really means. And so they're using the word in a barbaric, ineffective, and incorrect way, which produces a current of ignorance within their consciousness and repression. And so now they won't be able to understand the true meaning of the symbol snake and be able to appreciate the relevance of the serpent energy within themselves, because they are creating blocks. So, we need to reclaim that. Like, snake oil is potent medicine. Anybody that says that it's not potent medicine is working for the pharmaceutical corporations, because it was them that created the lie that snake oil wasn't real. And so they would say, oh, that's snake oil. Well, actually, if it is snake oil, it's good medicine. And they know this in India, right? They know this. Like, serpent poisons are used in so many medicines. In fact, pharmaceutical industry uses serpent poisons and oils in so many of their pharmaceutical cures as well. So on the one hand, we're telling everybody that snake oil means fake, but then the pills that those people are using has got snake oil in it. So there's a little bit of a hypocrisy, and I think that hypocrisy goes right through all of our horror films, all of our mental conditioning, the way that we've been taught to identify as a snake as a deceiver and a liar. So the idea of snake oil was digest because in the Bible, the snake was the deceiver. So your brain then goes, well, if the snake's a deceiver, then, well, snake oil must be a deception, right? And that is the great deception.
Yeah, the snake's seen as the deceiver, but it's the trickster. Like, there's the trickster and deceiver, because the trickster archetype is the one that shows you the door. It's like, there's this path, whether it's the good one, whether it's going to benefit you or not, it's your choice. That's the thing. It's your choice. The trickster's giving you the choice to make the decision. It's up to you as the person whether you step through that doorway. It's up to you whether you take a bite from the apple to know what is good and evil. But that's where we've outsourced our power, because people think, oh, it was the snake that got Eve to bite from the apple. The snake's the bad one. Whereas really, why did they not know what good and evil was before? Why did they not know that beforehand? Like, with this archetypal story, surely everyone should want to know what good and evil is. And what I believe this subtly does is it kind of makes us or makes people not want to know what good and evil is, keeps them in a state of apathy. And it's worked. And it's a form of gaslighting. And by that gaslighting, I mean more of a spiritual alchemical gaslighting, where
lighting one's farts.
Well, that being told that we have to get rid of the cows because the cows are farting too much. But also like this spiritual gaslighting, where they they gaslight people to give away their Christos, their oil, their sacred oil, their spark, because people don't want that flame to ignite. So via this sort of gaslighting, people sort of outsource their power, and therefore they do this, and they're fine inside their little shell, and they feel comfortable like that. And this is where we are with technology now. It's more like a drug. It's keeping people docile. It's not just the technology itself of the notifications and social media and stuff, and it's the blue light scientifically pulls you in, draws you in, and keeps you docile. There's been experiments done. It's science. And also with snake oils and poison, I think that's how homeopathy works, I believe. You take I'm not sure what the saying is. Esme's not here right now, she would know. But like, you take a little bit of the poison is the cure or the remedy. But instead, what's happened? They've made us they've demonized that, right? Go ahead.
The hair of the dog.
The hair of the dog. Yeah. What does that mean though? Do you know, like,
The dog is Hecate.
the dog is Hecate?
The
Yes.
hair of the dog.
The hair of the dog.
It's a magical term, I think. The basis of this, what you're talking about.
See, I've just heard it being associated with having a drink, but not related in the form of like the medicinal way. And also, that's very interesting. The thread of Hecate and dogs as well. The hair of the dog. Yeah, because dogs are guides, aren't they? That's really interesting. But yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say. It wasn't major interesting. It will come back to me. I think. Well, I think
you mentioned Esme. You mentioned. Yeah, I can track you back. Maybe you mentioned that Esme would tell you the correct thing, and how in taking a little bit of the poison is the cure.
I remember. So the way that it works, homeopathy. If people want to look up the Flexner report, that's where homeopathy got kind of swept under the carpet to make way for the modern day pharmaceutical industry we have now. So with homeopathy, there's a little bit of like a little bit of the poison or whatever, and basically it helps. It's very much like how we're told vaccines work. They put a little bit of the poison in, but such a small amount. It enables your body to remember what it is to be healthy. It's all about remembering, and homeopathy is home-eo-path. It's just remembering what is home. So it's the path to being home and feeling your body, feeling what it is to be healthy. Whereas we're told that's poison, snake oil, but then really what they do is they put oil, perhaps dragon oil, so snake oil from the earth, from Mama Gaia, from the dragon, and then they inject that into people. No, they put it. Well, they probably do put it in the injections, to be fair, but they put it in pharmaceuticals, and so they're actually poisoning people from these modern day pharmaceuticals, but not in the correct way. It's not helping people's body remember. It's more making people's body kind of reject itself. It's like the war on drugs, the war on the body. It's always this kind of attack. Even like stuff that's good for your gut, like let's say Yakult, for example, other brands are available on their TV adverts. It's like it shows these sort of things in your stomach, like antibodies and stuff, battling and fighting each other. It's like they've made us like fight a war against nature in our minds. Like you have germ theory and terrain theory as well. There's so much. It's multi-layered as is everything. But they've made us fear nature, and at the same time not just be afraid of it, but actually resent it. Like, wouldn't it be so much better if we were just in a sterile environment, that just LED lighting, bright white lighting, plastic everywhere? That seems to be what a lot of people want. They just want to be around this kind of sterile. Yesterday we were watching something last night, and this commercial for Febreze came on, which I might do a skit of it on my channel at some point. But basically, this lady goes into the house, starts spraying the carpet, spraying the walls, spraying the floor, and then this person's like, oh, like, why don't you spray the dog or something? It's literally spraying everything. It's like, rather than spraying everything with chemicals, why don't they just make Febreze capsules that you stick up your nose? So that's literally all you can smell, just this chemical Febreze. Because what is the point in spraying everything with these chemicals just so you can't smell life? You can't smell a bit of damp, or you can't smell your dog. And it would be interesting to delve more into smell, because I do understand that relates to memory as well, like smelling, and that we have chemicals everywhere. Like, I walk past people in the street and I can smell their washing detergent, like it's that strong. like all of these really strong smells everywhere, and it really can't be good for people's spiritual development. I'm sure it just like closes them off to the outside world when you can't smell.
That's a very interesting point, because you see, smell is fundamentally connected to the memory, and it bypasses the other senses, and then thought is a sense. So we've got 6 senses. Everybody talks about 5 senses, but they forget that, well, can you sense thought? Yeah, I can. Can you sense emotions? Yeah, I can. It's an inner sense of, mental sense. So all the other 5 senses, like thought, hearing, thought, hearing, taste, sight, touch, all of those senses get routed through the pineal gland is attached to the thalamus, right? And all of the information gets routed through the thalamus before it gets to the parietal lobes, which is your where your dream of reality is concocted in the brain, so that we can experience solid things, because nothing's solid, right? So it has to go through the thalamus, and it's managed by the pineal. Smell doesn't. Smell goes straight into the center in the back of the brain, and it just engages directly. That's why if you smell something, your memories can become active. So if you want, study tip, people out there that are studying, heads up, do you want to improve your memory when you're studying? Hey, Vince, how you doing, man? Good to hear. Good to hear. If you want to improve your memory when you're studying, create smell points. Code your memories that you want to remember with smell. Pick a particular plant, particular smell, and use that smell when you're studying. And then when you're sitting in the exam, imagine that smell. You see how quickly you remember the information. So, like, it's to do with your deep, deep memory. And that deep memory is also to do with your sense of time and where you've been and what you've done. And then that memory goes down to remembering who you are. So if you disconnect from your smell, you're disconnected from your animal natural self, your instincts, because your instincts are very much, the animal sense is smell. So you can no longer smell a fish, right? Somebody's trying to sell you BS, and they're like, no, this is a great plate of food. You're like, nah, it smells like a plate of bullshit, mate. No. It's a special cuisine. It comes from France. They carefully extract it from the guts of the animal. Mate, it's bullshit. Okay, yes, they do get it out of a bull's ass. you can't tell me that the stuff that they pulled out of a bull's ass isn't bullshit, right? No matter what you call it. No, it's a poulet jouvin. Oh, it's a special French cuisine word. So, but this is what they do, isn't it? And I think, like, on a deep level, the sense of smell is something that we've disconnected from because we wear deodorant. And deodorants often have, the crap that people use, the spray. It's got little metal particles that goes and rests on your nose. Think about how weird that is.
Well, those aluminium particles you spray onto your arm, they also just, like, is it 70% of stuff? Basically, most of what you put on your skin goes into your body. So if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. If you wouldn't spray deodorant in your mouth, don't put it on your skin. Your skin's an organ, and people don't realize that your skin absorbs stuff. So as well as, like, because I never wear deodorant, and I never really have. When I used roll-ons for a little bit, like natural roll-ons, that then I was like, do you know what? I don't really smell that bad. And I think it's because my sweat glands haven't been blocked by whatever's in these spray cans. So yeah, what's interesting is in 2020, lots of people lost their sense of smell too, which, like the way you've explained it, that's sort of like how we connect to our instincts and stuff. To me, that makes a lot of sense, that the smell would go, and perhaps it can come back when people connect to, more of their kind of their instincts and stuff. But I don't know whether that was anything to do with the mask, whether it was psychological, most likely psychological. Who knows? But that's practical magic, what you've just talked about there. Having smells which initiate dormant memories, and with studging, because I've done that before. When I did a soul retrieval journey, I had a specific set of essential oils that I smelt, 3 of them, and I haven't tried it, but my plan was to smell them if I wanted to go back to that place as a kind of shortcut. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. Does smell cross the blood-brain barrier? Because music also would, and music is a very powerful catalyst for memory. And it seems that music does cross the blood-brain barrier. It kind of hits a sort of soul level. Potentially smells do as well. And as we get older, our blood-brain barrier gets weakened, I think, and EMFs and stuff can aid with it getting weaker. There are things you can do to make your blood-brain barrier like stay strong. I think vitamin B1 is very useful for that. And as we're under these constant attacks of like shite music, all of these like awful smells and stuff, I think making sure our blood-brain barrier is protected, I think, is very important. And something interesting, I've kind of come to a realization recently that more men die of heart attacks and more women seem to have dementia or Alzheimer's. And that's just in my sort of experience. And the reason why I find it interesting is because the heart is to do with the emotional, which women seem to be more in tune with. That's why it's so important for men to have a balanced masculine polarity as well as the feminine, the emotional body, because it's the heart where we can kind of where we can store these. And I think that's perhaps why men die of more heart attacks, because they haven't connected to their feminine emotional body. And then at the same time, with older women who have dementia or Alzheimer's, which is the memory, the way society's been is women have been at home more. They've been at home cleaning and stuff. And what products have they been using to clean and do the washing? They've probably been using products like Ariel and stuff, which contain very harmful chemicals which disrupt the smell. So it's women that have been around these smells more than men potentially, and that's why more women have Alzheimer's and dementia. But then again, that's just in my own personal experience.
You know, while you were talking, I had this image of silica in my mind when you're talking about blood-brain barrier. And I just noticed they're using nanoparticles of silica to cross the blood-brain barrier. But I know that silica, just from like, you know, dietary things, which is why I thought to look it up, is very good for your brain. Like protects your brain from neural degradation. And so having a good amount of silica in your body, I think they're not saying specifically, but I think it's important. I mean, why would it protect you from Alzheimer's, right? Because I don't believe that Alzheimer's is a disease. I believe that Alzheimer's is a response to a buildup of toxicity based upon the plastics and the metals and, you know, all of the toxic things in our environment that do get to cross the blood-brain barrier and do get into the brain and do cause all of this harm in the brain. And silica is supposed to be very good, like places where there's a higher amount of silica in the water, drinking water. This tends to protect them from neural degradation. So make sure you're getting enough silica in your diet, basically.
I'd like to add something to that.
Yeah.
So silica is the 12th cell salt, and is it Damascus earth? Dimetris earth, is an algae which is silica basically.
You mean diatomaceous?
Yes, and that is silica, and that's really good for getting rid of heavy metals. So it's interesting that that's also good for Alzheimer's, because that's also to do with the buildup of aluminium in the brain, a heavy metal. So as
exactly, silica removes that.
Yeah, so as well as removing that, is it Dimetris earth, Damascus earth?
Diatomaceous. I don't know if you. I don't know how you would take it though, because if you took it as like, it's very abrasive. You'd have to have it like in a powder form and soluble in water, no?
Yeah, so we've got it in powder form, and every so often you take like half a teaspoon and then put it in water, and over 10 days you go up to like a full teaspoon, have it in water, but it's important you don't breathe it in. And that's really good. It's also really good for your nails and hair as well. So that means it must contain lots of omega-3, and of course it does, because it's an algae. So as well as getting rid of heavy metals, it's also got omega-3, which is really good for your brain. So as well as getting rid of stuff that your brain shouldn't have, it's actually benefiting you at the same time as making your nails much better and your hair better. So yeah, I'd highly recommend people looking into that stuff as a way to kind of combat what's going on around us. And with Alzheimer's as well, and like with memory issues, I do believe as well that's associated with trauma too, because there's a story of the river of Lethe, where you drink from to forget, but I don't think that happens when we die. It can happen when we're alive too, and from trauma, what's going on out in the world, and two people, generational stuff. People might just want to forget, and so therefore they'll I don't know how to put it into words, but they'll drink from this river, but not physically. In their psyche, they'll drink from this river to forget, and then therefore that will kind of basically this Alzheimer's or dementia will start to happen, as well as sugar as well. Sugar is in everything, and that rots the brain too. So this is what I mean when like we're under attack. Like this is war, and it's not like, oh no, help, we're under attack. It's like you got to kind of be vigilant and be aware of this stuff, that sugar is just so normal. It's in everything, like seed oils, just in everything. And you got to, and the same with all of these really harmful neurotoxins, which are in aftershaves and sprays and washing stuff. You can't just go to the shop and just buy what's on the shelf. You've got to like look at what you're buying, what you're putting on your body and into your body. You can't just trust the things which are in shops on the shelves. And there is quite a good app called Yuka, Yuka. Yuka is called, and basically you can scan the barcode and it lets you know what's in it. It lets you know whether it's like good, like poor, good, or excellent. But again, still be wary of that app, because it might push some products and not others, but you can still see what's in it. You can see if it's got a neurotoxin in it or not, and you just need to avoid as much as you can, because whether you like it or not, you'll be getting this stuff into you walking down the street. So you just, whatever you can be aware of is good.
I suppose this is the part of the segment where I want to advertise something, but it's not something financial, and it's an open source thing that you should all be aware of. And sorry, I've got to put the little guy on the floor. See, there we go. He wants to get on this keyboard, and once he wants to get on the keyboard, there ain't no stopping him, baby. So there's this really, really cool app store that I'm a bit of a Luddite. I'm not aware of it, but I don't know if you guys are knowing, and I suppose we should all learn about this. you know that Apple has basically sold out. They control all the apps that you're allowed, right, on your phone. Now, up until now, the Google Play Store has not been doing that. They have been allowing all sorts of open source and different kinds of apps. But now Google Source is going to sell out in October. They're going to become the same as Apple. Be aware of that, people. There is another app store, and we should all be making an effort to sort of stand up against this and play our role. And I think it's really fundamentally important. So there's an app called F-Droid, right? And okay, so you guys can all be a part of what's happening, and we should all be standing up with Android. We should be writing emails to Google. We should be letting them know. There are places, if you go to keepandroidopen.org, keepandroidopen.org, you will find there ways in which you can find out information and ways in which you can hold Google accountable. And if Google realizes that a lot of people are not happy about it, then we might have to start changing to other devices. And so there is an F-Droid. Now, F-Droid is f-droid.org. It's totally free, totally open source. There's no money involved. And basically, it's a FOSS app distribution ecosystem for Android, where your user freedom is basically what's protected here. And so it's free open source apps. Obviously, the open source apps are checked by the open source community for like viruses. So it's probably as safe or safer than Google Play. And I'm going to install it on my phone, because why are we using corporate crap apps when we could be using open source apps? We need to start looking at this, I think. And I think that, speaking about this, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an open source app that was made by people, not by companies, that has no financial interests with this company or that company, and is just basically a group of people out there, technicians, that are tired of poisoning their kids and got together to write an app, right? And just basically went and copied all of the information out there about toxins and put it into an app, and so the app can scan for that. There probably is an open source version, so peeps, go and check it out. It's probably a good idea. And you know what you're saying there is like really interesting about the diatomaceous earth, because it's got a high amount of silica in it, and I'm sure that silica does dissolve into the water and it leaves a trace element of silica. And there's silica. So where do you get silica from? You can increase the silica in your diet by eating spinach, by eating kale. Everybody should be eating a lot of kale. This is one of the reasons why kale is so healthy, right? Because kale is loaded full of silica. So start eating kale. Kale is really nice. You can stir fry it. You can steam it. You can even shred it really fine and eat it in a salad. Put some of it in a salad. But what I would recommend is depending on the kale, you get different kinds of kale. You can steam it lightly. Or I've got a slow cooker, and I'm going to get my slow cooker out. If you really want to get the most out of your food, you put it in a slow cooker and you just slow cook it for a long period of time. It doesn't get hot. It's at low temperature. All the nutrients are kept and stored, and you can slow cook your kale. Slow cookers are cool. You don't put in much water. You put in just a tiny bit of water that the food doesn't burn, and you can put like a pile of kale on the one side, a pile of carrots on the other side, a pile of potatoes, and you can slow cook all of your food. So something I would recommend. Potatoes have got like more vitamin C than oranges, right? So the way we cook our potatoes, we destroy all the vitamin C. If you get a slow cooker and you put your potatoes in, you just put them in the morning and you leave it on for like 5 or 6 hours. It uses hardly any electricity because it's very, very slow. And it brings it to like a temperature that you can actually put your finger in it. So it's not actually boiling or hot. It's not destroying any nutrients. So yeah, I think like we really need to take our diets to heart, and because this does tie into this, right? We've been disconnected from nature. We've been brainwashed into being afraid of snakes, being afraid of spiders, being afraid of insects, being afraid of ticks, right? Being afraid of the sea. Remember Jaws? Jaws was the best-selling film, right? Anaconda. These were big horror films. And then the film of the birds. Do you remember the film The Birds? Like, this is a very old film. The birds were like going crazy, and like basically there was like this plague of the birds that humanity was having to protect themselves from. And in this film, people are swatting at birds with baseball bats and tennis rackets. And I mean, it was a ridiculous film, right? The birds decided that humanity had to go, and they all started ganging up on humans. I mean, these ridiculous films are done in such a way that they're legitimately scary, because they are like gory and they're harsh and they push the limits of the imagination. And so there are so many of these films that have been put out there to brainwash us. And then how many of you have learned about, snakes and venom? Why do we even talk about snakes being venomous? Because, like you say, how many different varieties of snakes are there in the UK? Okay? Let's check this out. How many species of snakes in UK, right? And so this is quite interesting. So now they tell us that there are 3 venomous snakes. How many species of snakes in total in UK? So you see Google of, let's say, non-venomous snakes in the UK. This is going to be an interesting one. So the most common, often found, is the smooth snake, the zebra snakes, with the common European adder. Okay, so the UK doesn't have snakes. The UK's only got like a few, but most countries like South Africa, we've got hundreds of varieties of snakes here, and there are only about 5 that are dangerous. Do you know what I mean? And most countries, that's the case, right? So, but we've been brainwashed into believing, you got to be scared of snakes because they're dangerous. Well, I used to catch snakes as a child, and I used to catch a lot of snakes. I had a snake compass. I still do. I still gravitate towards them. I still found them. That's why I told you I saw a blackadder in the UK. I've got a snake compass. People normally don't see them. You're walking in the woods and it's there and you don't notice it, but I notice it because I can feel their presence. I'm very tuned in to snakes. I've got a special sort of relationship with snakes, right? And so I see a lot of snakes. Other people don't see them. But I used to just be like a little arrow. If I came to your house, I'd find the garden snake in the corner of your garden. Somehow I would just walk up to it and find it, stick my hand underneath there in the corner and put it in the grass, pull out a snake, And I used to collect so many snakes, and everybody used to freak out, like, "Oh, no, that's dangerous." And I was like, "No, dude." I was a little boy. I was like trying to educate people. I was telling them, like, snakes are not dangerous. Like, you guys are crazy. And everybody used to freak out. Like, I had so many snakes. When I used to tell people I have like 9 snakes in my home, people used to be like, "No, that's not cool." I used to be, no, it's this kind, it's that kind, it's this one, it's that one. They're not venomous. But if you go into someone's garden and you put your hand in the bush and you pull out a snake and you come and show them, they would step back in horror and fear. And I know, because I used to do it in everybody's house I went to. And I used to be, no, this is a slug eater. They'd be like, "Slug eater?" I'd be like, "He only eats snails. It's all he can do. Look here." Like, I put my finger in his mouth and he's got gums, dude. He doesn't have teeth. Like, he can't even bite me. Like, look at that. Like, I put my finger in his mouth, he can't even bite. Like, he'll eat all the snails there. If you put a snail there, he'll suck the snail out of the shell. And then people go, "Oh, okay, I suppose that's nice," But people still wouldn't want the snake in their garden after that. They'd be like, can you take it away? I'd be, of course I can take it away. Put it in my pocket. He's coming home with me.
Yeah, it's so interesting that even if people realize that some snakes don't have teeth, they're still afraid of them. And why? Like, is it because with me, I think it's the way they move, but what is the way they move? It's a sound wave. It's a curve. And what's interesting is that, like, architecture and the way the spaces that we live in now aren't curved. They all have straight lines. I think people would be less afraid of snakes if they were more digital rather than analog. If they were like square like this, can you imagine like Minecraft snakes moving around? I think that people would be like less afraid of them, and I think it's more of like the curviness, the sort of like the unpredictability, because I guess digital is more predictive, whereas like the sort of wave isn't so predictive. And snakes symbolize the intuition as well, which isn't predictive, and snakes more of kind of like symbolic of the feminine, like rebirth, and that kind of energy, the chaos opposed to order, is unpredictable. So this trickles down, or like echoes, and people want stuff that's predictive. People want to know what's going on, and this is where it comes into like knowledge and people just wanting to seek stuff outside of themselves. Yeah, I went onto Pinterest earlier and just found some images to share, which I found quite interesting. That the ripples of the water look like a brain, and the sand dunes as well. And then at the bottom you have the trees and the neurons in the brain as well as the veins in our body. There's the hexagon that's been demonized. I didn't even notice Saturn on the bottom. Oh, I'm so pleased they put that there, because you have on the turtle shell 13 shapes, 13 hexagons, which is the 13-month calendar. And then all of the moons that Saturn has, it equals 13. It's I think it's a 270 something moons, 274. Yeah, which is 13, which I find interesting because you have the Saturn moon matrix, but it seems that we're kind of out of sync with the cycles of the moon, but with the moon's demonized. We're told that if it's not always been here, which may well be the case, but it's just so interesting how this, because for me the hexagon is such a sacred symbol, and one that's been very heavily demonized. It's on the snowflake there, honeycomb. It's what plasma water looks like, 4-phase exclusion zone water. And that's so interesting as well, because if, for example, our DNA is in water, is in exclusion zone water, anatomically or whatever, it looks like it's got hexagons. And if we've been made to fear this shape, because we have, it's like all the hex, Saturn, it's a symbol of like magic as well, I guess, or even like as above, so below too. That perhaps that's one of the ways that signal to me that we've been afraid to go into the waters, because the water, plasma water, is a hexagram, and that is on Saturn, and we've been like made to fear going into the depths, into the dark, into the abyss, into the water, where we find ourselves, where we find our ancestors, where we find our light within. And because we've been made to fear this waters within, perhaps we've been made to fear the waters without too. Perhaps we've been made to fear rising up above the firmament through the water, to what's beyond. And that's like the firmament, which is firm mind. Like they want us bound in this place. Don't go into the waters and don't go up out of the waters either. Be that in your imagination, or your kind of intuition, go into it, going out of it. So I find that very interesting, and I'm so pleased they put Saturn in the bottom there, because I didn't spot that earlier actually.
Totally. Oh, sorry. I was just checking that my mic was on because I heard a beep. I thought I'd hit the cable with my arm. But I noticed you got some other pictures here too. This is quite an interesting one here. What was the spiral and the flower, and beautiful, spiral of life. That's how water moves. That's how air moves, right? That's why we have that's why we respire, because we have spiracles, right, in insects, and we inspire, we expire. We come into life through a spiral, we leave life through a spiral, and we breathe through a spiral. The water in our blood has to go through our system as a spiral. The blood has to move through the arterial and system of veins as a spiral. Have you looked into the way the heart beats? Shinobi, have you checked that?
I have seen somebody unravel a heart though, and it's more of a vortex than a pump.
Yeah, basically you've got 4 layers of muscle, 4 different types of muscle in the heart, and they all contract at a different speed, right? So the heart doesn't just do that. It goes like that, then it goes like that, then it goes like that, then it goes like that. So it does that. So it goes like that, then that, then that, then that. So the heart beats in a spiral.
Do you remember, or have you known what the shape of the heart is? There's a certain shape for it, and it sits inside a cube at a slight angle.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously the one ventricle is a little bit bigger than the other one. The 2 atriums. Yeah, the one atrium is bigger, and that atrium sort of dominates, which is on our left-hand side. But this is nonsense about the heart being on the left-hand side of the body. I was taught in biology that the heart's in the center of the body, dead center. The thing is that the atrium on that side of the body is bigger, so it looks like the heart's on that side of the body, but the center of the heart's in the center of the body. And the left side of my body has got more heart in my left side because that side of the body is bigger. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would have to fit into a cube. It makes perfect sense. And you know, the hexagonal perspective of a cube, because a cube has got 6 faces facing outwards, right? Which is quite interesting. So the Venus connection with the cube is very predominant. But when the heart is beating, it's literally, it forces the blood plasma to do this. So the blood doesn't push through the arterial system, it spirals. And so the blood is moving at a spiral of phi. How crazy is that? Through the system. And so if the blood wasn't spiraling through our system, you know what would happen? It would pop. And this would then create too much pressure in the system. So that's why it's important to have a good heartbeat, like that the muscles are all contracting at the right time, because if it doesn't create that spiral, then somewhere in the system it's going to pop, right? And we call that like an aneurysm or a stroke or whatever. And so it's like it's crazy when you think of how the whole system is spiraling. Like when you walk, right, there's a spiral. Like in order to move your right leg forward, right, the muscles have got to wrap around and pull in a curve around your system, and they've got to curve around with the left system. It's got to be curved into the right side of the spine to create a fulcrum, so that this thing can go around the outside, you know? So even the act of walking involves the body using spirals. That's why in martial arts, your form and your technique has got to be a spiral turned into a linear trajectory, right, to generate power, because everything works spiraling out from the spine, and they have to have counter levers. So one lever's got to be pushing and one lever's got to be pulling, right, in order to create the force and the motion. So it's really interesting when you look at just how the spirals are woven into the body. And when you go into nature, everything's a spiral. If you stand underneath a tree and you look up, the tree's branches come off like a spiral, right? You look at a flower opening up its petals, it's opening up like a spiral. You look at the ocean, you look at the waves flowing on the ocean, they're like spirals, right? Like if you actually look at the waves, you're swimming and you look at down the wave when it comes over your head, like a wave in the ocean, it's spiraling. And you look at the clouds, right? There's a point in the center of a weather system where everything's spiraling around that point. And then you look at nebula and galaxies, everything's spiraling. So I think we've been taken out of this nature to experience the spiral, to be inspired, to be able to breathe in the life force and the prana, which is spiraling through our systems. And we've been sort of put into these little cubes, right? Cubicles. Like this room that I'm in, what is it? Okay, this isn't a cube, but this is an oblong room. But you could fit a number of cubes into this room, right? And so that is, that is in itself quite interesting, that we are forced into a cube. What's little Garthan doing? He's jumping around here. He's up to something. Okay, yeah, they're cruising around. But we're forced into cubes. We're forced to live in squares. We're forced to be trapped in this sort of, I don't have it here, but my phone. What is the phone? Is it a double cube? A double square. Phones are like two squares, right? If you think about them.
For your two eyes, it's worth each eye.
Yes.
Yeah. With the symbol for time as well, like a Sam's timer, that's kind of like a vortex too. So time is more of a kind of a vortex. That's why I always get people's attention at the north of Saturn, the hexagram, Kairos time, more of like flow time, opportune moment, opposed to linear Chronos, observed time. And with the spiral vortex, even a blade of grass, if you look at a blade of grass, you can see the vortex as well. And when you see surfers going under that tube or pipe, that's a spiral as well, isn't it? They're like actually in the spiral. And you mentioned like square boxes that we live in, like apartments. Our minds have been separated, like compartmentalized, like with like this kind of grid structure separates us from nature, and sometimes we don't even notice. People don't even notice the amount of straight lines there are in the world today, like lampposts here in the UK, right angles. There's just a lot of right angles, and in the Emerald tablets it mentions those that don't move in straight line, and those that move in straight lines are not of this place. There's something here which isn't of this place. but we are, as humans, from this place. We are from here, and there's something here which doesn't belong here, and this is why it's important to, I guess, stay true, or like talk about lost wisdom and rituals, initiations, sacred symbols and stuff. All of the stuff that we talk about on here is so important, because it can, I do sense it could get lost. It could get lost because there's less and less people reading books, more and more people just getting their information from online. So even like some symbols, sacred symbols, can be demonized, and that kind of, it's a real shame. So that's why I love coming on here, talking about all of these shapes, symbols, patterns, language, myths, and stuff, and bringing it up to the surface once again. And for me, like it's that's magic. Like to understand how nature, to be in resonance with nature by understanding how it moves, how it grooves. And that's language as well. Language is our nature. Language is how we communicate. And like if you're in tune with nature and listen to it, I've heard you before, like when you were talking to a boy, you were telling him to listen to the wind, like listen to nature, like, and that's being present. That's being here. To hear is to be here. And it's not just our smell that people need to be careful with. It's our hearing as well. It's what we hear, and it's being present, being here in the 3D, in this matrix. Because this place we're in nature. We're a part of nature. And this whole thing of wanting to escape reality by going into the, like plugging yourself into the metaverse, just constantly being, the amount of people I see on their phones driving past. Do you know what they get fined if they get caught on their phone? It's most of the time it's work companies, work companies like builders and stuff. Most of the time, just phone in hand on the wheel, just looking down. There's a school just down the road, and this is quite a busy road here as well. And I can't get my phone out quick enough to film them or take a photo of them. I can only memorize the company and the license plate number. And
you have to break the law. If you're driving, you have to break the law.
No, I don't drive.
Right.
So I'll be walking down the road. But they get fined £200. £200 just for looking at your phone. I do not think that's good enough at all. That doesn't seem to be a deterrent. But my point is that people are so engrossed in technology and the artificial that they forget about nature and where we are. And this whole demonization of I'm just going to share a newspaper article. We'll share my tab. Here we go. Let me know if you can see this. I'll remove some of the others. It's a newspaper article from the Sun paper here in the UK in 2022, saying that basically gardening can cause heart disease because of the soil. Now, this year, 2022, not long after 2021, when, the Armprick Adventure, you call it, was like heavily rolled out, the list of stuff that causes heart attacks, changing your bed sheets, heart attack. Like, and there's a new one. I think I'll try and find it. But basically, kids are afraid of nature, and I'm going to try and show that article in a second. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy that we've been made to fear the soil, fear the earth. And what does this represent? Matter, the cube, the physical, this realm. Like, the earth is an anagram of the heart, and they're telling you that connecting to the earth can cause a heart attack. No, that's an inversion. not connecting to the earth can give you a heart attack, and not connecting to your heart can give you a heart attack. So it works always. Someone's mentioned negative ions in the chat as well. Yes, very, very important. And negative too. See, they're bad for you because they're negative.
No, the negative ions are good for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. But it's called negative. This is
exactly.
Yeah.
This is the trick. This is how they play us. But my son's mother is always on his case. She's trying to brainwash him to be afraid of spiders, because any spider, he will just grab it and pick it up, right? Like scary looking spiders, man. I'm like, whoa, dude, like be gentle with it, because like this, you can see that this is a spider that can actually bite. And not that it's dangerous, like lethal, but like that thing can bite. And I don't want to make him scared. I'm just saying, be careful you don't hurt that spider, you know? Like you don't want to hurt it, because if you hurt it, it'll protect itself to bite. Any creature will do that, a dog, a cat, a spider, anything, right? It's got to teach him like to be gentle. But he would pick up a thing, just grab it, like grab, put it on him, grab, put it around. And I'm always getting him to play with geckos. We love geckos and lizards, and we got these cool black lizards here around here that like I can't quite get them to go on my hand, but I can get my hand in front of their face if I'm careful. And they don't want to go on me. They're really quick. Like if you try and move to pick them up, they run. They're big. And so we're always playing with lizards and geckos and trying to keep him natural, but his mother is so ingrained in being afraid of spiders. And I'm like, don't you get it, man? Our child is so natural. Like, this is how you're meant to be. You're meant to just, there's a spider, grab it, put it on my hand, like, cool. And it's like, oh, why you do that? You know, it's not like freaking out, because he's not freaking out. If we were to do that, the spider would be a little bit more nervous. It'd be like, whoa, you know, if it can sense any fear in you at all. And so our information and our knowledge that we've learned becomes an undoing, in a sense, doesn't it? You know, being aware, you know, people who watch stories about dog attacks and watch stories, they're afraid of dogs, which is something I've never been able to wrap my head around. Like, how could someone be afraid of a dog? They actually don't mean bad, you know? And even if the dog is like aggressive, if you calm down and get your emotions completely calm, and even if that dog runs and jumps you, it won't attack you if you stay calm. And I've like tested this theory with, like, you know, pit bulls and dogs that are like trying to be aggressive. And like they are the most sort of in tune with human vibration animal that there is, right? And they will only respond to you with what you've got within yourself. And I mean, I've had gangsters trying to set their pit bulls onto me, right? And they can't get their pit bulls to attack me because the pit bulls are like, and I'm laughing at these gangsters, like, yeah, dude, like your dog's broken, dude. You broke your dog, dude. Like, it's broken, dude. Like, maybe, you know, but like this is the thing. I think we've been so brainwashed, and we need to start with our children, you know. Like, I think like you need to actively go and find lizards, pick them up, put them on your, like, yeah, you want to hold, you know, to show them that you can engage with nature, you know, and maybe go and find one of those worms you don't like, you know, and pick them up just so that they can handle them. I think I know the ones you mean. They're big pink ones, yeah?
No, not actual worms. They're called slow worms. They're silver. They're much, much bigger. When I was 7, I lived in the Dominican Republic with my mum and sister for a year, and I had it's funny because my eyes are actually green now. My eyes were blue then, and I had my hair goes blonde in the sun, or like, well, not this amount of sun, but if I'm like, when I was younger, it was bright blonde when I was 7, basically. So I looked like a completely different child, like blue eyes and bright blonde hair. But we used to, me and this friend I made there, Marcus, who was 10, who lived in a wooden hut with like 6 of his sisters. We used to make catapults and shoot birds and barbecue them. There were lizards everywhere. I got chased by these massive iguanas, like 5 or 6 iguanas, because I was trying to poke them with a stick, and they can run quite fast. Giant lizards, like iguanas are huge. Well, to a 7-year-old, they were pretty big. And yeah, we used to just explore this nature. We used to go into the rainforests. We used to get these 2 wooden sticks and a rubber tire, fill it with oil, and used to run around like this, pretending like we were motorbikes. And I didn't have any fear of anything then. I didn't have fear of anything when I was 7. I think we're taught to fear. It comes over time, which you've spoken about before. But with nature and kids, there's actually an emerging disorder called nature deficit disorder, which came around in 2005, which is to describe the psychological, physical, and cognitive costs of human alienation from nature, particularly in children. So it's actually like a thing which is starting to emerge. I'm just gonna share something on the screen. Where is it gone?
So those slow worms are actually lizards. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, they're legless lizards, and the reason they're lizards and not snakes is because they've got movable eyelids.
Wow.
And
Okay.
they've got ear holes. So if they've got ear holes and movable eyelids, they're technically not snakes. What a head trip!
So we had a lizard. We found a lizard in our flat. Like, we're on the ground floor. We found a lizard. Hang on, I'm just getting this image up to share. Yeah, we found a lizard the other day in our flat in the front room, which is by the garden. We've got big doors that go onto the garden, which is really interesting because I've never seen a lizard in the UK, in England, and there was one in our house. It's crazy.
They're really cool creatures, huh?
Yeah, I love lizards.
And they get used to you once they get used to you, they're pretty chilled.
So earlier you were talking about pressure in the system and like vortex and like pressure in the heart. And there's a lot of pressure in the external systems. And this is why it's so important to have a central point, have a pin, an anchor, so stuff can spin around you like a vortex. And that's how nature moves. It lets things flow. And you can see in these images here, like the spine with the caduceus, and then the toroidal field and the pineal gland, all representing this spin, this kind of vortex. And I learned a new word yesterday. Sapienta is Latin for wisdom. A sapienta. And straight away I thought of a sapling. You know, a sapling when a seed emerges from the soil, and that's wisdom, and that's Buddha. That's when the bud goes ha, bud ha, when it emerges from the dark, and the little seed, the sapling, sapienta, means wisdom. I found that so interesting. And with the Fibonacci sequence, the first bit, the phi, is spelled F-I. But it does remind me a lot of phi, like Sophia, like wisdom. So the phi would be fire or wisdom, perhaps the spark within in the central point. And the bon is French for good, and then aki. So the good fire is the key, and that's the Fibonacci is the key, and that key is the spin, and the spin is the spine, the S, the spin of the pine, the pineal, which from above looks like a toroidal field or like a sunflower. So that's the spin, is the S pine and the spine. It's all connected there. And the thing is, the spine is kind of like an anchor as well. You can look at it as the caduceus either side. And there's a saying that I can't remember, but it's something to do with having a strong spine. Like if you're spineless, you'll just like let anything happen to other people or yourself. If you have a strong spine, then you'll have a strong anchor. And therefore, first off, you'll be more wise, most likely, because you'll question why people are doing things to you, why people are doing things to other people. You'll question what's going on. That's the wise, questioning the ways. And then this vortex will be able to, this natural rhythm, like vibration that we have, will be in more sync with nature. So yeah, I'm not sure if you caught that earlier, Franklin, but sapienta is Latin for wisdom, which is like sapling, and Buddha, Buddha.
Yeah, man, that's really interesting. I did go to check up on my boy quickly, make sure that he like, what's he up to? No, he's on a break now. I'm like, dude, I'm watching you. How long are you on a break for? Because he did a live class, and before that he did a recorded class, and I need to make sure he's on his school, you know. When he's lazy, I make him do school until like 5 p.m. Sometimes I got him doing school till 6 p.m. and all he wants to do is play Minecraft. I'm like, no, dude, you were playing the fool today, so we got to do this lesson again, you know. One more exercise, one more class, one more exercise. Today's gonna be one of those days. So yeah, that's interesting. Sapienta, sapi. Sapi is also like safi, right? The root of the word sapphire. Yeah. So what's the etymology of sapphire? That's interesting. Safi in India is what you cover your chillum with.
You cover your
sorry?
Is what you cover your what with?
Your chillum with.
What's that?
It's a pipe. Hopefully it's an Italian one. But the Italian chillums are very expensive. They cost like, they used to in those days cost like $400 or $500. Now I think they cost like $1,000 for Italian chillum, and it's what you smoke your charis through, right? Because they've got hand rubbed charis in the Himalayas, and so you get your chillum, and you'll sit in a group, 4 or 5 people, whatever, and you'll smoke a chillum. But each person's got their, well, people share safi, but you know, common sense is to have your own safi. So I'll have my own little piece of cotton that I rinse in the water and I wash it out and I wring it out, and you cover your chillum with your safi. It's like a filter. So that little bits of stuff doesn't come through when you know.
So you're chilling with your chillum.
Yeah, chilling with the chillum, yeah. So let's see, etymology of sapphire, and that's quite interesting. They're giving me derives from the Greek saphioros, sapphirus, which refer to blue stone. So sapphire, prefix etymology, and we should probably hit a pi in there as well. Not that I don't trust Greek. So Saphir. Oh, so annoying. Sanskrit Sanipriya, which means dear to Saturn. Oh wow! So sapphire is got a root of the word Sanipriya. It comes from the word Shani Priya. Shani, sapphire, Shani Priya, sapphire, fire, Priya. That's really interesting because in Sanskrit it means dear to Saturn, right?
Well, what was the card we were looking at the other day? Was it not judgment, justice? I'm sure Sapphire came up with the blue cube on her head.
Yeah, it was the sapphire was on the heart, I think. Was over the heart, and that was just because of Saturn's role. Because Saturn, sapphire is the stone of Saturn, right? That's why we see the etymology of the word relating to Saturn, which is really interesting. So yeah, it's relating to the hardness of the Saturnian quality. The only stone harder than that is the diamond, right? Which is Venus, which is really interesting, right? Because we think of Venus as being soft, don't we? When actually, like, you think of Taurus, it's like a bull, you know? It's a pretty hard animal. like its body's hard. If you run into a bull, you're gonna bounce, you're gonna hit the floor, right? Like if you're running down the road and a bull steps in front of you, guess who's gonna hit the ground? It's not gonna be the bull. Like, and they've got hard horns, they've got hard hooves, their body's hard, the muscles are hard, the bones are hard, everything's just dense, solid. It's like a truck, you know. It's like a slow moving truck. But yeah, well, actually, in the wild they can run pretty fast. You'd be surprised how fast bulls and buffalo can run. They can run, man. Bloody hell! When you see them, it's something to behold. Who would have known that those big wild buffalo can run the way they do? But yeah, they run fast. I don't think humans can run as fast. Yeah. But we see these domesticated animals that are like fat and lazy and they can't run because they've been sort of bred not to be able to run. You want to get on the keyboard. They can't have you on the keyboard.
They can run up to 35 miles an hour, apparently. Bulls.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can only run 12 miles an hour, I think.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like they run a lot faster than what a human runs. You see them running, you're like, oh, I don't want to get hit by that thing. So yeah, you know, I think that's quite an important thing to look at. You know, the word saf relates to suffering. You see, so now we can see a root between the word saf related to Sanskrit. We see that Saturn connection etymologically, and then we see the word suffering. And you know, when we think of suffering, we think of Saturn, don't we? We think of time, restrictions. What we call suffering is us reacting to our restrictions, is it not? Right? So, like, you know, to my boy, suffering is when I decide not to let him use the tablet. Yeah, man.
Really interesting that with the Saturn connection, as because we started off talking about sapienta, meaning wisdom, which is sapling, which is where sapling emerges. You have Buddha, which is the Buddha, when you emerge from the dark, which is kind of the judgment card emerging from the cube. But also with the justice card, the blue cube is on her head, which relates to this sapphire. So it's interesting how these all connect, because sometimes justice can be suffering, and justice is just is. It is what it is. And sometimes we can be blind to it, and sometimes we can observe it, and sometimes we can be the ones to give justice, like you with your boy, which could cause suffering for maybe the parent or the child, but it's all the process of growth, like the sapling, and that's wisdom. And then I originally started rambling about that because we are the seed in the matter, in the dark. We are the wisdom. Well, like we're like the seed, and we can emerge from the darkness, like the sapling does, and then we can become wise. But to get there, we need knowledge and intuition. But it's the intuition which has kind of been hidden from us, or we've been made to not trust that intuition, just the knowledge. So therefore, most people don't seem to be very wise, especially on the world stage, especially people who have like wisdom isn't what's the word? It's not reward. It doesn't seem to be rewarded, which is a real shame.
Totally, totally a shame. And I think it's once again by design. We get wise when we go into nature. So nature makes us wise. We experience the cycles of nature, and we see the lunar presence, the Saturn dynamic. You mentioned the sapiena, and you mentioned the other word budding, for the budding flower, the bud. What was it? Boudoir.
Buddha, wisdom. So sapienta means wisdom. The Buddha.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see what's at the heart of our Saturn square is number 5, Mercury. Now, number 5, Mercury in India is called Bud. It's the Bud planet. So Buddha is the perfected state of mercurial intelligence. It's mercurial in nature. So this is why Saturn is related to having being a wise king, right? Because at the heart of Saturn, you got the 5 of Mercury, which is like relating to the mind and the intellect. So that's quite interesting that, the words are pointing out the occult sort of patterns within the structure of the system. Namaste, the star. How are you doing? I hope you're good. Hope you're well. So it's no wonder that a flower is called budding, right? And the budding is it taking mass. And Saturn also represents mass, right? That's why you go to mass, right? And when you go to the mass, people be wearing, like the priest will be wearing a black cowl and doing his sermon, and sermon, right? So the mon is the moon, and he'd be addressing the moon. It's interesting, like if you look at what's going on here. That's actually a point I wanted to bring up. Is the Saturn moon matrix, and I notice there's a lot of people talking about it, and unfortunately there is so much obfuscation in modern times. Gosh, the internet, I've seen people talking about the Saturn moon matrix, and I think they're talking about one thing. Now I see they're talking about something else, and I'm like, what? And a lot of people have invested a lot of time and energy into this, and what they don't realize is they're citing New Age stuff, New Age propaganda. They don't even recognize it. And so here you can see what's the Saturn. So Saturn with regards to its regulation is the moon, right? But that is regard to time. And we need to be very clear on what we're talking about. So the moon and Saturn balance each other out from a Saturnian perspective, in a sense, because the moon is taking in, and it's taking into the unconscious, and the Saturn is bringing out, pouring out into the domain, the physical, right? Manifesting what is brought in from the unconscious into physicality. So they become a loop. But It has nothing to do with political and power control. Please, everybody, when you hear people talking about the Saturn moon matrix and they're trying to tell you that it has something to do with the elites, they are delusional, they are wrong, they are confused. The Saturn moon matrix, let me break this down for people. The Saturn moon matrix is the connection between the cycles of the moon that regulate the plant growth and the cell division and the emotional cycles that relate to time, right? So time is this unending current of movement through space. And the time is Saturn. And how is time regulated? For living and dying. So the Saturn moon matrix is nothing other than the way in which time is regulating life and not being alive. And that regulates the seeds, the germination. It regulates the becoming ill. It regulates the going into the unconscious and coming out from the unconscious, going into the womb and coming out of the womb. That's what it relates to. So when we speak of the Saturn moon matrix, we're talking about how your garden grows effectively. We're talking about these natural forces and these forces of life, essentially. And so we're talking about being alive, not being alive, and how that is related to Saturn's rule, because Saturn rules time. But the rulership of time is managed by the moon. So it's like Saturn owns the company, right? Makes the rules for the company, and the moon has to go and implement it, if that makes sense. So Saturn is the CEO, and the moon is the projects manager, if you will, right? Or the director. The moon is the director, and Saturn is the CEO, if you want to put it in terms of a company. So this has got nothing to do, and I'm going to repeat this again, nothing to do with the elites ruling over humanity. You want to see the elites ruling over humanity? Look at the square in front of you. It's telling you what's going on. And unfortunately, you cannot find this stuff in books. Unfortunately, all the new age propaganda that's been put out there from the last 50 years, 60, 70 years has been put out there partially to corrupt our understanding of the truth. So when you hear all these people going on about the Saturn moon matrix because this writer wrote about it and they read that book and this book, and all these people are reading from the same rule book, what we got to understand is the rulership of humanity is the Saturn Mercury matrix. Okay? Get a grip. The Saturn Mercury. How are we ruled? Are we ruled by the way in which like seeds are growing? It's a small part of it. We're ruled by money. We're ruled by economy. We're ruled by trade. And we're ruled by legislation. Right? That's the bottom. What is legislation? Legislation has got to do with maritime law. Maritime law is the sphere of Mercury. The word Mercury, mer means sea, means water. Mercury, curious, is the curiosities that come across the ocean that can be traded. Saturn rules money because Saturn rules time. Saturn rules what time can produce. Saturn rules over the crops. Saturn rules over the food. So when Saturn is in tune with the moon, it's about the production of matter, production of food, the production of cells, babies growing, the birthing, the population growth. That is, but when we're talking about humanity, we're talking about the mercurial control of information. Do they control us like that? No, they control us with information. Information is what they use. It's their currency. They brainwash us using communication. They communicate with us through our phones, our TVs, our devices, through our education systems. It's all mercurial. That's why a teacher is ruled by Virgo. Virgos are the best teachers because they are mercurial. And so to understand that we are being ruled by a Saturn-Mercury matrix is a unpolluted understanding of the occult principles of what is being used by the elites to manipulate us. And this is really important. You need to wash all of that mumbo jumbo that's been planted in the brain by all of those writers that are just copying the same nonsense. It's the same as people writing about crystals. They're all reading from the same crystal book. They don't understand the meaning and the power behind crystals because they've been brainwashed by an idea that was made popular in the 50s and the 60s, the same as the fake false enneagram, which is out there, which everybody's bowing down to, praying at the church of the fake enneagram. It's not even a real enneagram, and the numbers are all corrupted. The principles are corrupted, so everybody has to go, well, don't focus on the numbers. Come on, man, don't focus on the numbers. It's all about numerology. It's fundamental to understanding the psyche and the occult. So, yeah, when we look at the control structures, we have to recognize that Mercury is at the center of the Saturn cube for a reason. And that reason is that the regulation of finance, of what is produced by the growth cycles, of the what is reaped, the corn. Corn is representing Saturn. That corn is represented by Moony, money. So the moon produces the substance, right? The principle of generation is brought into being by the moon. However, that's not what's controlling us. It's the mercurial presence that's controlling us, and that's the maritime law, which is based upon traveling across the oceans and the shipping routes and the trade routes. These are all Mercury. Shipping routes, trade, Mercury. Mercurial mercantile law, which is the law of money and trade. That law has been turned into legislative law. Legislative law comes from the legislation of the ships. That's why we have birth certificates, right? Because we come from the ship. That's why we have citizenship. They control us with our birth certificates, our citizenship, our financial dossiers, our debts. All of these things are controlled. These are all Mercurial and Saturn. So when you want to understand the paradigm of those that are controlling us, it's a Mercury-Saturn matrix. When you want to understand the dynamics between birth and being alive and growing things, that's the Saturn-Moon matrix. And you cannot talk about the Saturn-Moon matrix but pretend that you're talking about. And so you'll find this. Am I right? Have you seen this obfuscation yourself, where people think they're talking about the Saturn-Moon matrix, but they're actually talking about all of this stuff?
Yeah, videos pop up all quite often on my, especially my Instagram feed, of people even sharing this diagram as well, the Saturn's square, and saying how evil it is. I mean, it was Pope Gregory, the 13th Pope, who brought in the Gregorian calendar. It's interesting, he was the 13th Pope, and he was the one that got rid of the 13-month cycle. And it's just people's disconnection from matter, because Saturn governs time and space, density, boundaries. It has a huge part to role in our existence here in the material, in matter, as does the moon with the tides and the subconscious and magnetism. And people have been disconnected. That's partly what people have been disconnected from the matter, from the earth, and also disconnected from the planets, from Mercury, from Saturn, Moon, Venus. People, like, now what's replaced these planets or stars or whatever is celebrities on TV, or people on social media that people follow. So rather than us following the cycles of time and understanding the wisdom of time, people are following sort of this artificial sort of guides on social media or in films and the like. It was really interesting that Mercury's associated with maritime law. So it's like marrying time, maritime, marrying time. And what is marrying? Marrying is a wedding, which is and it's like Wednesday. Wednesday is Mercury's day, and it's the central point of the week. Well, between the 5 days, the third day. So that's interesting. That is kind of the center of the 5-day week, if you discount the weekend. But yeah, I haven't looked too much into the Saturn Moon matrix or what it is or whatever. The path that I've been on is finding my own path. I haven't really. I've got a book by Rudolf Steiner, Occult Science, which I've read a little bit of, but I haven't really read many books on many of these subjects. I mainly listen to people talking about things which I deem are useful. And I've heard David Icke mention the Saturn Moon matrix quite a few times, and he's somebody I don't really trust. So I don't really know too much about it. I've seen people sharing stuff online, but I don't really like. I'm quite conscious of the information I absorb, because I only want to absorb information that's useful. So if I hear stuff that's not useful, just forget about it. So I'm not going to bother. So I can't speak on the Saturn Moon matrix because for me it's not useful. All I know is that how Saturn and time work and behave, and what the moon is, and how our cycles of time have been kind of hidden from us. And now, instead of having a more spherical perspective of time, it's more of a linear, square time. It's more of a kind of analog digital system that we're in, opposed to the more natural rhythms of time. That's got nothing to do with Saturn. It's got to do with people's perception of Saturn and of the moon and of themselves and nature.
You know, there's an interesting point. There is a matrix of manipulation, which is the Venus moon matrix, right? Now, the Venus moon matrix represents Venus is the garden, right? Taking us on a journey, the story, the entertainment, right? And the moon is the unconscious, is the silver. So the silver screen is, and then this is why you'll notice on the silver screen, it's all about beautiful people, right? Like bizarrely beautiful people that are very, very pretty, acting on a stage or in a film. And this is broadcasted through the silver screen. So there is an element of manipulation, but that is not the web of control. When we're looking at the moon Venus matrix of psychological reprogramming, that is like working on the unconscious, working on our sexual appetites. For example, making women want to look like the supermodels, right? Creating psychological depression in women. And so that is like about generating illness in people and making people have a different perspective of what sexuality is. So that is more about social grooming. So when we speak about the matrix between Saturn, in fact, we should probably do a long show about the different matrices, because everybody's just talking about this matrix that's out there and they don't understand, like, it's not that simple. You can't just take one thing. If you take the Saturn moon matrix and you try and talk about something else from an occult perspective, you will inhibit your ability to understand those occult forces. And if you inhibit your ability to understand the occult forces, then you won't be able to fully appreciate what's going on, right? Like, if you disturb the meaning of a word and not understand what the meaning of a word is, then how are you going to understand the sentence, right? Like, so the occult forces, to be able to respect and understand what they represent, you're more likely to see them operating in the world for real, without necessarily becoming delusional. And I think that this is a really interesting point for us to look at. And you can see here, right, you can see it here very interestingly. So you see there's something to do with the 6 and the 4, right? So the 6 and the 4 share a certain relation. The 8 and the 4 share a certain relation. The 8 and the 2 share a certain relation. The 8 and the 2, that's a Saturn moon matrix, right? The 6 and the 4, that has got to do with Uranus and the North Node, which represents the future. The 6 and the 4 is about wanting pleasure in the future, right? That has got to do with the lie of retirement, that you're going to have this lovely retirement. You're going to have the rest of 4. 4 represents rest. 6 is harmony and joy, and like, you know, being able to do all the things you want to do for your recreational sense. 6 represents that. Then you see the 8 and the 2 represents, you know, the growth of things, the growth of plants, farming, all of that. Then you also see the 8 and the 4 represents 4 represents, once again, the sunrise, moving towards the future, moving towards understanding Uranus's role in what kind of transformations to expect. The 8 and the 4 is powerful transformational energy when those two are in a matrix. And so we can also see that the North Node of the moon is where you're going. The South Node of the moon is where you've come from, right? So when we're talking about the South Node of the moon, we're talking about 7, right? So where you've come from is very much in a matrix with Jupiter, right? So they want us to be expanding towards our pasts. When we're expanding towards our pasts, we get trapped in our pasts, right? The 1 and the 9 are a matrix, right? That's the Sun and Mars matrix, the solar Mars matrix. And the Mars is about creating powerful transformational alchemy. And the 1 is about who you are. They want us to change. They want us to become something that we're not. They want to be able to manipulate that transformation of who we are. The 1 is the center of the ego. The 9 is the transformational potential of what to become in the next cycle of being. So the 1 and the 9 are thus connected. The 7 and the 3 are thus connected. The 7, 3, the South Node, the Neptune and Jupiter matrix is really about having our expansive minds and our imagination looking at the past. They want to turn history into a lie, right? They want to bamboozle us with not understanding our past, creating using creative imagination to manipulate the past. And what do we see at the center of everything? 5. The center of everything, Mercury. So that Mercury is the key. So the true matrix with Saturn is Mercury. That's the true power matrix with Saturn, because Saturn and Mercury have this important, powerful role, with Mercury sitting in the center of Saturn's grid, if you will, in the cube. And so that does hold a very powerful and significant relevance, I think, when we look at this. The only relationship we haven't shown is the 2 and the 4. And that has got to do with the moon and the emotional requirements. The also relating to 4, relating to the future, relating to what is to come, relating to our goals in a sense, right? 8 becomes the expression of those goals. So 8 and 4 is really about like becoming trapped in your career and the goals of financial success that you want. 2 and 4 is really being trapped in the process of becoming emotionally entrained with the future. That obsession with the future is why they can trap us with 4 and 8, right? Because they hinge upon each other. So when you start to look at how these forces are operating, you can see each of the control mechanisms represented here, right? Each of the control matrices, and they all each have a different aspect that they affect within our social systems, within our life, within our educational systems, within our, all the structures of control. But at the heart of it, you've got the 5 and the 8. This is the ruling of this 9 square is Saturn's 8 cube. So the cube and the 5 are really the matrix we should be focusing on, because that is the structure of control. That is the money. That is the trade. That is the bank accounts. That is the citizenship. That is the receipts. That is the contracts. That is the education system as a whole that gets into our children's brains. And while we're focusing on the Saturn moon matrix, we're missing what's really going on.
Yeah, man. Well said. When you were talking about the future and number 4, so number 4 is that Uranus and the North Node. So the North Node is known as the head of the dragon, because the way I kind of look at it is you have the head of the dragon, which is the future, like to heed a warning of the future, head and to heed. So that's the head of the dragon, foresight, number 4. Critical thinking, which is thinking ahead. And then you have the past, which is the tail of the dragon. And then when you hear a tale of the past, like history, you're being told what happened, tall tales. What is associated with the past again? Is it 6?
7.
7. And what planet is that?
That's the Jupiter. Jupiter's got a strong association there. The 3 and the 7 are operating over the 5. And the 3 represents expansion, represents imagination, represents all of these forces. So they're expanding our imagination into the tale of the past. And they are using that to, they're using that to keep their money, number 5, trade at the heart of everything. They keep that 5 in the center. I mean, they are using these divine principles to control us. So if we understand what this number dial is, it's like a lot of phone numbers. And each phone number dials a different extension. And each extension they are using. This is the intricacy of their plan. Their plan is monumentally, monumentally researched and implemented on every level, and they have thought about the occult association behind every choice they've made. We're not dealing with fools.
Yeah, so the number 5 is like say like the body of the dragon, the central point, like Mercury, which is just like being, like present. Whereas the head would be future and the past would be the tail. The body is the present, which is the 5. And it fits with phi as well. Fibonacci, phi, and V. So even in the word 5, you've got phi, which is like fire, wisdom. That is the messenger of the gods. The fire within, as within, so without. The fire within, fire without. The stars above, the stars within. That's how we commune with the guardians of dimensions or with source. So that's very interesting. And it's also got me thinking of the Manipura chakra, like Manipura, or if it's late, it would be manipulate, to manipulate. If you're not present, if you don't have the fire or this anchor point, you can be manipulated. And that is right in the center of the vagus nerve, which goes through it all, which connects the heart and the mind, which is how they manipulate us by disrupting our central nervous system, or just disrupting our, forget the nervous bit, they want us nervous, but it's just disrupting our system so we can't connect to our systems. And that is the internal systems of us and our psyche, our body, and also the external system, so people don't know what's going on. And that is the gnosis terms. To know systems, you need to understand the terms of gnosis, which is understanding the planets, the numbers, like, and you don't need to understand, you don't need to be an expert in them, you just need to be interested in them. It's like there's magic in this, but to you have to acknowledge the magic. What I mean by this is magic is a wave that flows through us, it channels through us, we're channels for it. But you need to wave to it, you need to acknowledge it, because if you ignore it, you'll be ignorant. Ignore ence. Ence is the spirit. And it's like clairvoyance. It's like clairvoy. Voy is to watch or perceive. So clairvoyance is just a clairvoyance, is to see spirits clearly. So there's other words too, which has me thinking that ence, anything ence, is to do with spirit. Significant ence. Oh, do you know, I'm not going to go into the words of that. But yeah, anyway, the Manipura, the way that I'm sure it's related to Lush somehow there, the Manipura, and how we can be manipulated, and how our fire, or the fire within, can be extracted by gaslighting, and that's a manipulation. So yeah, just that's very interesting for sure. And also you were mentioning, like, if they change our perception of like the future, that changes the past, and likewise if they change the past, that can affect the future as well. Like if this whole story of evolution, and that how humans are at the pinnacle at the moment of everything. If humans are at the pinnacle of everything at the moment, that's kind of blocking everything that's happened in the past, where we've come from. And this kind of ancient wisdom has been lots of it's called like conspiracy theories, like energy healing stuff. So that's gaslighting. So we've had lots of people have had that extracted from them, that they don't think that we can heal by thoughts, by light, by frequency. And then this makes way for so that's an obfuscation of the ancient intelligence, AI, to make way for the artificial intelligence, so you have the ancient extracted to make way for the artificial. And that's where you have the transhumanism, or transhumans, where people are in a trance, just kind of sleepwalking, rather than being in a dream and becoming awake or aware of the dream in which we're in. And the dream is a wave, is water, it's magical. And if we acknowledge that, we will be magical, the world will be magical. But the flip side to that is that this magic, our magic via manipulation, via the Manipura chakra, which is a solar plexus, which signals fire to me, has been extracted. So people lack fire, because I've noticed that people are walking around, but there doesn't seem to be the light within. Like, what's the phrase? The lights are on, but no one's home. It's the opposite to that. So the lights aren't on, but people are still walking around, somehow managing to exist. You know, it's the opposite. So there's a phrase, the lights are on, but no one's home. The opposite is what's going on, is that there's people there walking around doing stuff, but where's the light? And I think this has to do with the Manipura, because it just fits with the Manipura, the manipulation of the money, the one energy, which is kind of like magic, which is probably like the ether, this field all around us. But yeah, that's interesting for sure. Yeah.
So that's you make a very clear point there. The money is.
Someone said, no spark in the chat, which is the number 5, is the Mercury, is the fire, the Sophia, the fire within, the anchor point, that the spark that anchors or connects us to to future and past timelines, to be present in this one, to be connected to our ancestors within and our ancestors without, the stars within, stars without, waters above, waters within. That is the anchor point, which is the Sophia, the spark, the phi ratio, the toroidal, the spin, the vortex within. Sorry, brother, I interrupted you there, but I just had to say that.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. So yeah, I mean, you were talking about the money. The money is Saturn. Saturn is money. In fact, the first money was Saturnian coins, literally. And the trade is Mercury. So that's how they fit together, right? So the Mercury is the trading of these goods, right? And the money, that is what is traded. So the solar plexus is where we get our life force accumulating, right? Our prana accumulates in the solar plexus. That's why it's called the solar plexus, because it's the plexus where the sun energy collects in our bodies. So the solar plexus,
where the
life collateral, life money, right? If you want to think of, so that's money pura chakra, which is very related to Saturn, very related to the storage of bringing together contraction of that energy field into that point. And that is then distributed through the distribution hub, which is Mercury. So Mercury is the distribution of money, which is mercantile trade and exchange. And the money itself is Saturn. And so Saturn is the raw material and the raw currency, but that is managed by the ships on the sea. And they use the banks to manage that. So that's why they need to have the ship, so they can have the berths and register the berth. Regus, that has got to do with the king keeping track of resources, right? Registration. And through registry and registration, this mercurial birthing of the certificates of those on the ship, and then the citizens of the ship being registered, they can control the money in that way, keeping track of who's got what money. So that's where the banks come into it. And now they need to make sure that the money of Saturn is turned into currency. And Saturn's money is turned into currency when it's moving. Now, 5 at the center represents the movement and the change of alchemy. So that's mercurial energy. Mercury is always changing and sort of, transforming itself. It's not set. It's a metal that's like a liquid that's always in motion. And so, you're really right when you pick out that point of the mercurial connection, which is Manipura. Interesting. And the Mani connection, which is operating through Mercury, and the Manipura, the Saturn energy, is the key. And so that's why we say that we eat, right? We eat food and it gets digested here in the Manipura. And that's, what do we say afterwards? We say, I ate food, the number 8, right? So I ate food, I eat food. The food is what Saturn has, which is the reaping of the corn from the ground. It goes back into the ground when we've ate it. And so that's like that cycle of life running through the solar plexus. It starts at the solar plexus. That's where the food has to be digested, right? And it has to be digested. And once it's been digested, it gets broken into its polarities. Then Mercury can redistribute the nutrition. And so the distribution of that gets done through mercurial, once again, controlling the trade and the flow of money and the banks and everything else. So if we can think of the macrocosm of what they've done, they've recreated the physical body outside of us in the world.
Yeah, also as well, the symbol for the Manipura chakra looks like somebody doing a flying knee kick. If you, I've shared an image. If you share it to the screen, you'll see what I mean. And obviously, the knees are related to Saturn. Well, Capricorn, the knees. It looks like somebody doing a flying, like a ninja doing a flying knee kick. I don't know if you see that. Maybe I'll share a different one.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that is rather interesting. Can you see the connection? If you keep that on there, let me show you another. If you keep that on the stage,
there you go.
And you can actually see a connection here.
You can see the spark as well. It looks like a lightning bolt almost too. So symbolic of the spark of like the knee. And it looks like a letter J, and I've just checked to see which number the letter J is, and it's the number 10, which relates to solar, or the number 10 being the sun. So there's lots encoded in there. And those 3 T's as well, I've seen that before. Those 3 T's around the edge. Where have I seen that? Is that something to do with like the Jesuits? 3 T. That's going to annoy me now. Do you see those 3 T's around the edge? Hang on, I think it's a type of cross. Let me check that. Cross.
Oh, the 3 T's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a typical thing used in yantras. You're talking about around the triangle. Yeah. That is very well spotted, you know. There are T's
on a
on there.
flag. I swear it's to do with like the Jesuits or a Christian flag. It has 3 T's. I'll have to get back to you with that. I'll keep looking.
So let me show you something here. Okay, so we'll keep that. We'll bring it back. So we'll flash that, right? We'll flash that. So can you see that is a relation? And there's another form of that, just to put the other form of that there so you can see it. So here's another form of that, right? See the letter H there, right? Which in itself is quite interesting. So we can see that this also is like relating to, I mean, this is very interesting. This one is done with an S, right? That's not usually how it's done. This is not really a well done Saturn glyph. And so here's a better one. Here's a better one. Oh, here's a pretty one. There's a pretty blue one. But here's a traditional one. So they're trying to obfuscate some of these symbols for us as well, right? But there is a more classical one, because you see that the crescent represents the moon, right? Represents the crescent. So you've got 3 symbols in astrological symbolism when it comes to creating these glyphs. You got the circle, you got the cross, and you got the crescent, right? So Aries traditionally is a cross and a circle. Venus traditionally is a cross and a circle. The Venus cross is traditionally pointing down. The Aries cross, the Mars cross, traditionally pointing upwards. Then you've got what else have you got? Then you've got Jupiter and Saturn. Now, Jupiter and Saturn are two opposing forces, and so they both have the cross and the crescent. But Jupiter has the cross with the crescent that looks like a number 4, right? And Saturn has the crescent at the bottom and the cross on the top, right? Jupiter has the cross on the bottom with the crescent running across the top, right? So if you invert that cross, turn the cross inverted and put the crescent inverted over the top of that, you end up drawing a kind of a Jupiter sigil. It's like a crescent like that, right? With a cross. Does that make sense? And that cross bisects the crescent on the top, creating that sort of classical Jupiter sigil. Then, so Saturn and Jupiter are opposing forces. And then we've got, what else have we got? We've got the moon and we got the sun. And the moon and the sun are opposing, and they each represent a crescent or a circle, right? And then you've got the one symbol that has all three in it, and that's Mercury. Mercury is a circle with a cross with a crescent on top of the circle. So traditionally, Saturn, this is a much more accurate representation of Saturn than all the other ones that I was showing you, because that's just what you find on the web. It's part of the obfuscation. Now, when you look at this proper Saturn, and now that you're understanding the reasoning behind why this is correct, because you can actually plot it. You can take all 7 symbols and study them. And in the occult, this is what you would do. Now you look at this story, and now we see something very interesting, right? We see something very interesting here. Anything look familiar here at all? Can you see there's something in this glyph? If you look at it carefully, right? So you got the top. It looks almost like a, and now there's different ways of representing this letter too, by the way. And so once again, there's a stylization thing going on. But can you see how there's something very similar? Look at that image carefully. Now look at this image carefully. It's got a line going across the top, right? It's got a straight line going down, and it's got like a thing going, curving off towards the right to make that. Remove that. Here, we've got a line going across the top, right? Then we've got a line coming down, and that bottom looks like a curve. Does that make sense? So you could imagine that in a sense represents a T cross, right? A T cross at the top with a crescent underneath it. Does that make sense? That so you can see the crescent and the cross in the symbol of Saturn here, and you can see the crescent and the cross in the symbol. And so, these are like really fundamental ways of understanding symbols, is to look at the roots of, so what does the cross represent? What does the crescent represent? And what does the circle represent, right? The circle represents like electricity. Yeah. The crescent represents magnetism. And the cross represents the point of electromagnetism. And we're talking about light, right? So the cross represents light. And light is electromagnetism. So that's why when we speak about stars, they look like little crosses, right? Cross with a cross, cross with a cross. Because they literally represent these principles. And so they look like what they are. And so that's, food for thought.
Would you be able to share the image of the Saturn glyph again? The last one you shared. I just want to show you something interesting. I've also found the triple T as well. So yeah, you can see the Saturn glyph is like a T and a H, which are my initials, Toby Hawks. And so a T and a H, and if you show the Manipura chakra, so you can see at the top there's a T, and at the bottom there's a H split. Can you see that? So you have a T at the top,
Yeah.
and at the bottom, the H is split. So you have two T's. I found that triple cross. So I'll just share this tab instead. Here we go. Your mic's muted, by the way.
Did I actually accidentally remove it? Is that the one?
Yeah, here we go. This is the one. Yeah, so you see here the triple tau, 3 T's. But if you look at how it's done, it's a T and a H. So you see the Saturn connection there between the triple tau. It's like a Freemasonic symbol. Because where have I put that other tab? 1 second. So here we go. So you got triple T there, or a T and a H, and then you can see the triple T around the edge there. That's where I recognized it from. So yeah, should we wrap up in the next like 10 minutes or so? Your mic's muted, by the way.
Oh yeah, I was saying to you that that's well spotted. That's really good. You know, the triple T in there relating to that is mint gold. Yeah, I was gonna say also it's like it's almost 2.5 hours, so it's definitely time for a wrap up.
Also, I need to add the triple T just because I had to look and see what the number the T is. It's the 20th. So T is the 6, which is Saturn, the 6th planet, the hex, triple T.
Absolutely, you know, and you know, if you look at the T as it represents in that tau cross, it represents the number 400. So having those 3 T's connected the way it does, you know, it's there's one element of 1200, right? So that's interesting. You know, 1200. I think that's quite relevant. And what's 400 times 400? No. This keyboard is annoying. 400 times 400 times 400. So that's interesting, isn't it? 64 million as a number. So when you add them, you end up with 1,200. And when you multiply them, you end up with 64 million. And I just find that rather interesting, you know, the idea. Josh, please take your hands off of the glass. You're messing up the glass. I'll be with you in a minute. Okay, patience. So, yeah, man. I think this has been a great little segment. I hope you guys in the chat have enjoyed the show. I hope you got what you came for. And as always, dear Toby, it's been an honor. Totally enjoyed it. And yeah, man. Any last things you want to throw on the table?
Yeah, it's been a great conversation as always. I've learned quite a few things today, as I always do. So I hope this has found people in the chat well. I hope they've learned something and their perception's been expanded. Because I think that the more and more we sort of like learn about these things and how everything's connected, like the language, the etymology, the shapes, like the Manipura chakra and what it represents, and then I just found out that it's related to Saturn, and like it makes so much sense. And then money, and just connecting all of these dots, weaving all of these threads together, we're able to see the tapestry that is that is life in more clearly, and this goes beyond just perception of like three-dimensional that we can see. It's more of creating more neural pathways in our mind, in our psyche. This is why I kind of call this stuff like side keys to our psyche, that the more keys we get, the more doors we can unlock and the more open our mind will be, and therefore our perception of reality and therefore ourselves will be enhanced, like will be more broad, because it's fine to have one degree, but learning about this stuff is enabling us to have a 360-degree vision, perception of what we call reality, dreaming, and everything in between, liminal spaces. So had a great conversation today, and look forward to next time.
As always, brother, it's been a total honor. This little guy's talking to my ear. He's so cute. He's chirping away, singing at me. I think he wants to go. I must take him to his food bowl now. He's been running around now. He hasn't eaten in like an hour and a half. This is his way of saying, mate, it's been an hour and a half since I've had seeds. But yeah, it's been a total honor. And I think, you're right. Like tying all these dots together really does give us a cohesive perspective of the forces that we're dealing with. And if we want to understand the form, then we want to understand the forces that construct the form, then the formation of our society using those forces to manipulate the form of society, we can see the connection between form and force, which is exactly what this representation is here, right? We've got form and force, right? We've got the one compass of form and the other compass of force. And the compass of form and the compass of force are all encompassing, right? Isn't that funny? Isn't that cute the way it does that? So all of this all encompassing form and force is, I think, like, a real insight into the way it is. As always, thank you, dear Sophie. Thank you, dear Vincent. Thank you, everybody else that's been in the chat. I don't know who's there now. Astara Lee, namaste. You came a bit late, but big love to you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you enjoy the show that we did. And HM Jax, hope you're good. Vince, of course. And Jimmy. Hey, big love, Jimmy. Good one. Well, everybody, sending you all big love. And take it easy. Keep smiling. Keep the dream alive, because life is a dream of life. And big blessings to all of you. Om Shanti. And thank you, dear brother. As always, it's an honor chatting with you here. I think I love these little get-togethers. And I hope you enjoy your day. It looks like it's sunny in the background there. Nice golden sunlight coming in the windows. It's joyful. The boys are going to be home in a little while, and the house is going to be like, woohoo, ding, ding, ding-a-ling-a-ling, ding, ding-a-ling, like a circus, right? Like,
I love my boys, but I love being able to like use my mind and like sort of step outside as well, like in these conversations. And when the boys are around, it's great, but not able to have any conversations or anything, So I do cherish these moments where I'm able to like expand my mind, sort of get out of the material, out of matter. I love them, but I also love being able to sort of like have my thoughts to myself.
Well, as they get older, you'll be able to include them in the mind expanding. So that'll, exactly. That'll also become its own interesting, fun avenue. Yeah. Big love, dear brother. Big love to all of you in the chat. Take it easy. Keep it sweet. Keep it smiling. Om Shanti 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 Mahesh. Take care, everybody. Big bless.